he was a guy who was kind of known as a guy who fell apart.
A quitter a little bit, yeah.
Cub Swanson knocked him out. A bunch of guys had beat
Max
him.
Holloway had like that weird neck thing going.
But let me ask you something. What if those losses weren't weakness? What if they were construction? And some fighters rebuild. And Charles Oliveira? He did both. If you appreciate real fight stories, you're in the right place.
And he just turned a corner and then became the baddest motherfucker in the weight class.
Yeah.
Not just the baddest motherfucker in the weight class, but one of the best motherfuckers in the sport. When he knocked out Chandler, he beat the shit out of Gaethje. When he was putting it on people, you gotta go, God damn, he's good.
Charles Oliveira grew up in Guarujá, Brazil. Favela streets, tight homes, no comfort, no safety net. As a child, he was diagnosed with a heart murmur and rheumatic complications. Doctors warned against intense physical activity.
Told he would never play football. He was told that he would have to have injections every 2 weeks for the rest of his life.
And then ending up in the most unforgiving division in MMA. His father brought him to jiu-jitsu anyway, and this is important. Oliveira wasn't built as a striker. He was built in scrambles, transitions, submissions. That matters later. Remember that. He enters the UFC at 20, young, slick, dangerous off his back. But lightweight isn't forgiving. It's sharks from day one. He wins early, submits veterans. Then the cracks appear. Loss to Paul Felder, knockout by Cub Swanson, and slowly the narrative forms. He quits. Let me ask you something. If a fighter can't continue when hurt, is he weak or is he just unfinished? At one point, Oliveira sits at 10-8 in the promotion. Not elite, not safe. And this is 155 pounds. You've got killers like Tony Ferguson, Dustin Poirier, Justin Gaethje. So here's the real question. How many fighters recover from a reputation like that? Most disappear quietly. Charles didn't. But not because he suddenly became fearless, because something changed outside the cage. He started fighting for responsibility, and this is where the technical shift happened.
In most cases, successful people and winners aren't necessarily the most gifted and the most talented athletes. You know, it's the ones that never stop trying sometimes that outlast the pack and end up being champions.
Oliveira didn't just get tougher mentally, he began accepting damage to create chaos. He stopped protecting himself from being hurt. He started weaponizing it. Think about that. How do you defeat a man who isn't afraid of the place where you're strongest? Now watch what happens next. Submission over Kevin Lee. Dominates Tony Ferguson from guard. Constant threat. Then Michael Chandler. Round 1. Oliveira gets dropped hard. Pause right there. That's the old story, right? He collapses, but this time, he stands up, walks Chandler down, knocks him out, becomes UFC lightweight champion. He defends against Dustin Poirier, elite boxer, veteran killer. Oliveira takes heavy shots, and instead of fading, he tightens the choke. Submission.
He's a champ, man. The game plan was to take my time. I brawled again when I wasn't supposed to. The game plan was to take my time and let the fight unfold. Take him to the 3rd, 4th, 5th, and pick him apart.
Then Justin Gaethje drops him early. Again. And again he survives. And then he chokes Gaethje unconscious. Let me ask you something. How many lightweights can get hurt and still be the most dangerous man in the cage? That's not fragility. That's evolution.
Everyone has told us they are going to break Charles Oliveira. They're going to remind him of those times where he gave up on himself, where he quit. And every single time, New Bronx has proved him wrong.
And now, let's talk facts. Charles Oliveira holds the UFC record for most submission wins in UFC history, most finishes in UFC history, 21 finishes, 17 submissions.
How do you have 20 submissions? How do you submit 20 of the most dangerous people in the world?
This dude's a beast.
Then comes Islam Makhachev. Oliveira loses, and critics return. He was never that guy.
No man, no one's ever gonna hit me as hard as life has hit me. So, fell down, and I'm gonna get up, and I'm gonna get this belt back.
But watch carefully. He fights Beneil Dariush. Explosive, violent, first-round TKO. Statement made. Then Arman Sarukian. Young, technical, relentless. split decision loss. Then comes Ilia Topuria, vacant title fight. One exchange, knocked out. That's the sport. But here's what separates him now. He doesn't spiral, he rebuilds. He submits Mateusz Gamrot rear naked choke, round 2. Performance bonus. Most fighters crumble after a KO. Charles comes back hunting again. And now, Max Holloway again. Years ago, his body failed him. Now, he's the most prolific submission artist in UFC history. Max is a legend. Oliveira is no longer fragile.
My coach is probably gonna kill me when they see this and hear me saying, you know, a BMF thing to do would probably to do in this fight would to submit a submission artist. You know, a guy who's known for submitting. So I'd be pretty BMF, but you know, at the end of the day, never say never. You know.
This isn't about redemption. It's about evolution. The first fight created the narrative. The second one, it ends it. So here's the real question. Was Charles Oliveira ever weak? Or were we just watching a fighter grow in real time? They once called him fragile. Now, he's one of the most dangerous lightweights the sport has ever seen. Not because he never broke, but because he learned how to rebuild. From a sick child in the favelas to the UFC record book, Charles Oliveira isn't just a champion. He's proof that sometimes the fighters who look fragile early become the most lethal versions of themselves. And that's a dangerous man to bet against.
Faltando alguma coisa aqui, não tá? O campeão se chama Charles Oliveira, o Charles do Bronx.
Hey, there's something missing here. The champion has a name, and it's Charles Oliveira from the Bronx.